my desktop. Oh, you can't see. Oh, rats. So you can't see.
There we go.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
This is my desktop, but I was hoping that I could show you, let me see if I can go back and share something else. It isn't letting me, okay, so it's only letting me pick one thing. I was trying to show what it looked like on your, to show you some things that I had up for the Zoom piece. Let me see if what if I do that? No, I don't want to put Zoom. Let's not do that.
There is a way to read that when I'm on my Android.
It's hard to read that, is that what you said?
I can't even see it. I can see your shot. I know that you're on, looks like the Wigio.
Yep.
But can't read it at all.
Oh, that's a bummer.
Yeah.
Okay, so but these are good things to know about. I was going to try from my iPhone and see what happened, Lynn, so I'm really glad that you're testing this out. I know Jim's on. So so I'm going to stop sharing now, and I'm going to stop sharing with all of you. So if you look at the bottom, for those of you that are on computers, there is a strip at the bottom of your screen, and it says from left to right, it says mute audio, stop video, invite, share screen, and participants. And if you click on that participants piece, can you see, you can see that, Lynn? I can see you on your head. And I don't know about, who's tablet using? There was somebody else. Jane, can you see that on yours?
I have to turn my mic on. There we go. It's at the top in the right-hand corner, actually.
Okay, so I have it in the top right-hand corner.
Yeah.
So if everybody clicks on participants, you can see who's here. So I have that Nancy is hosting the meeting. I'm the one talking. Teacher is Phyllis, and she's having trouble with microphone and video, but she can hear us, and so she's going to be chatting in the window. I don't know if you see that chat window has popped up with Phyllis talking in it. So teacher is Phyllis. Renee Frappier is here. Darlene is on, and Jim Bean, and Vic, and Dawn, and Wendy, and Karen, and Lynn, and Nancy, Jane, and Diane, and Maggie, and Ricky, and Laura Orr are all here. I'm going to call you Laura every time I see that, Laura. So this
sounds like Romper Room, and I see Wendy, and I see. Do you guys remember Romper Room? From
yeah.
Yeah.
So now we're all in the throwback, right? It's like a time warp. So at any time that you're sharing, you can see that whoever's talking pops up in the screen, which is really nice, and it should also give you a tag of who's speaking. So somewhere on there it should say A. Nelson. That's just my admin login, and so you know who's talking. So, and it might be a good idea, I didn't think about this until I logged in, it might be a good idea if we all use our names so that we can remember who is who. I know somebody, oh, it was Jim. Jim, you logged on as Pom Pom for a minute. I thought, who's Pom Pom? And telling about our personalities. I think that's a great way. But know that if you're speaking and you have something that you'd like to do, you can share your screen. And, if you have an activity or something, here's, later on we'll be talking about the Wigio, what's on there. And, you have an activity that you'd like to pull up. Here's the kinesthetic astronomy pieces. That is a feature that's available for everyone. If you ever log on to a meeting and you cannot, we can't hear you, try muting and unmuting your microphone for whatever weird reason. That often helps, that very simple thing. But does anybody have any questions about how, it's pretty straightforward, but if you go to the settings button, that allows you to turn up and down your microphone as well as your speakers. And make the preference settings. Nancy, are you recording this?
Yeah, I started recording it just when you got started.
Awesome. Okay, great. So we will be able to post the files on the Wigio. So if you ever miss a meetup, you can go to the Wigio and download those files and listen to them. So if anybody has any questions, although it looks like you all figured out, you're such smart teachers.
Well, now I tried using headphones, and does that make a difference?
Yay!
Yeah? Oh, good. All right. I'm part of the group.
No longer the obstacle here.
Oh, good. I hate it being an obstacle.
Oh, good. Okay. And you can also, if sometimes it's hard to, it does pick up pretty sensitively. If we interrupt each other, it will, if anybody clears a throat or anything like that, it will get those, it will transfer to that person. But know that the chat feature, so at the participants button, if you click on that, in the right-hand corner of that pop-up, it says chat with all. And you can chat either with everyone, or you can pull that little pull-down screen after you open up the window, and you can pick people to chat with in there. And if you wanted to, just say something to Nancy privately or something like that. Nancy, have you gotten a report back from the big, from here? I know on the Wigio that whoever hosts the meeting gets a report, and it does list all the comments that everybody does say. Do you get that? Does that happen when you get a report?
I have not got a report.
Oh.
But when we have been using it, I don't think we've used the chat.
Oh, this is true. So maybe that's something we can put on the list and try, or after this meeting, maybe you can let us know. So I know with WebEx and with Wigio that even if I send a message to Nancy while we're on a meetup, whoever's hosting that meeting for the forums will know what I said to Nancy. So just a reminder that that it isn't anonymous, but that it's perfectly okay. And if you have questions or comments while somebody's speaking, please feel free to use the chat window too if you don't feel like Phyllis will be using that completely today because she doesn't have a microphone or a webcam, so please watch that chat window so we can include Phyllis in on the conversation. She is there, so yeah. All right, well, since we're all, go ahead, I'm sorry. Okay. Since we're all together, I thought it might be, or we thought, rather, it wasn't my idea, that we reintroduce ourselves now that we can see each other's faces, we can hear each other's voices. So I had two questions for you, and you may choose one or the other because you're kind of being put on the spot. But the two questions I had for you to answer was to state your name again and remind us where in the United States or in the North America that you live, and then tell us if you have any plans this summer that are going to help you prepare for your next year of teaching and what that might be. So maybe it's a trip you're taking or a training that you're doing or something exciting. Or tell us how where you live geographically impacts how you teach heliophysics. Give everybody a few seconds to sit, and you can just jump in and introduce yourself. And
okay, I'm quick.
Thanks,
My
Vic.
name is Victor Troutman, Petersburg, Alaska. And the heliophysics piece, we're kind of doing it right now. We have to be very cautious when we pick solar things because the sun normally does not shine here. So right now we've got a sunny week, so my freshmen are developing their trash solar ovens.
That's awesome.
And tomorrow we test them.
Thank you, Vic. Will you be sure to post for us on the Wikio what happened? And we'd love, I'm sure, to hear what some of the results were.
Sure.
That would be great.
Yeah, take some photos.
Will do.
So what are you guys cooking?
Heating water. It's based on a third world country idea of how you can get hot food, hot water, building it out of everything that's disposable. So when they're done, the students will take their oven and put it in the trash. They cannot keep anything.
Well, do you want me to jump in next? Well, I'm Lynn Powers, and I'm in Montana. I have a lot of plans this summer, but one thing is having their meeting here in Bozeman in July, so I'm really excited about that.
Lynn, something's wrong with my audio, I think. Can you tell us who's coming to Bozeman that is going to have their meeting in July there?
Maybe I have my phone too far away so that you can see my face. Now you can see my eye. How's that?
It's really unfortunate that this is a dull group.
I'll do it too if you want. The AAS, the American Astronomical Society, Solar what is it?
It's the SPD, the Solar Physics Division.
Yeah, you got it, girl.
Yep, that's right. And do you know about their teacher workshops? They're actually planning a teacher workshop the weekend before the meeting starts. So I think the meeting starts on July 8th. And I think the days before that, they're planning to have a workshop, an educator workshop. So you should keep an eye out for that. It would definitely be worthwhile going along.
I'd love to meet you.
I unfortunately won't be there. I will be. I had planned on being there initially, but I'm actually on the SPD EPO committee. But unfortunately, I have to. Well, not unfortunately, I have to be in a workshop here in Berkeley related to a different project. But maybe next year. You never know.
Yeah, I know that they're having a public speaker on that Monday night, and they're doing several things. And they've sent me emails, the people who are putting it on here, asking if it could help do some things.
Yeah.
And I have, through the astronomy club at the high school, we're part of NITARP, got in there this year, and they're going to be going to the AAS meeting in January down in Washington, D.C., so they get a sneak peek by going to this one here, which will be really cool.
That'd be great. Well, you should definitely keep an eye for, there's an educator workshop the weekend beforehand, so I think it's on the 5th or the 6th of July, and I think they have a Meet the Scientist night planned as well for, I don't know if that's geared towards students or teachers or the general public or who it's towards, but it's definitely worth a look if you can get down to it. I can make sure, I can post you information as more of it comes through if you'd like.
I would love to see that, because the only thing that I've seen that's public related is the speaker that they're having come in on Monday night.
Okay, well, I'll get more information for you and send it your way.
Appreciate it. Thanks.
Sure.
Thank you, Lynn. Look at these resources being shared. This is awesome, and thank you, Claire, for jumping in there. And we're glad you were able to join us. All right, who's next?
Phyllis joined it, just put a note in the chat. So perhaps I'll read it out. So Phyllis says, I live in California and I will be working with a program to help students build an eco-friendly garden on campus. Oh, that sounds cool. This training will be taking place at LMU. I'm not sure what that is. I will also...
Loyola Marymount.
Loyola Marymount?
Marymount.
Okay. I will also be going to the Disney Music Hall to learn how to bridge art and science together.
Oh, awesome.
Wow, that sounds like fun.
Very cool.
That is after my own heart, Phyllis. Thank you so much for doing that. Science is art and art is science, people.
Yeah, I like that too.
Oops, I'll go next. Can you guys hear me?
Mm-hmm.
All right, I'm Jane DeLong. I'm in St. Louis, Missouri. And over the summer, I'm going to be attending a workshop here through my district where we're going to be talking about teaching Common Core literacy standards across the content. So I'm excited to be able to integrate some of the core standards with literacy into my classroom.
That's huge, Jane. That's awesome. Thank you.
Who's next?
Diane, do you want to go since you're in the big screen?
Okay, I'm on the big screen. Yeah. Okay, what am I going to do this summer? Well,
or how does your geography affect how you teach heliophysics? You can have a choice.
Okay, that's an easier one. We are able to use the sun a lot. And I have a solar filter, and I train my students to safely observe and make sure that other students don't do anything unsafe. And then it's always interesting because we have these little dollar solar sunglasses that they look up and they see the sun unmagnified, and they're just amazed that it's so small. And then they go look in the telescope, and it's too big to fit in the field of view, and we can zero in on sunspots and things like that. So the fact that we have a great deal of sunshine, I use that a lot, and it's a resource for all of the science, all the earth science.
You're so lucky in the Sunshine State there. That's fabulous. Thank you. All right, who's next?
Well, I'll go. So, oh, Jim just put something up. I'm Nancy in Texas. I don't know if you can hear me. My broadband width is very, very low, so I'm not sure what it's doing. But this summer, oh, thank you. This summer, with my classes, well, my classes are going to be changed around. I'll be teaching more children that have deficits in the English language. So I'll be taking some training and doing a little bit more to help kids who are deficient in English. And so that's where our focus is for next year. Our Hispanic population is really growing. And so we have a lot of training. We have a lot of children that have needs, and we need to meet those needs. So with heliophysics and teaching those kids, we do, or I use an awful lot of pictures because they do not have the vocabulary, whether it is to speak it or to understand it if they're reading it. So we use an awful lot of pictures and talk about things based on pictures. So that's what I'm doing this summer.
Thanks, Nancy.
Great. Yeah, Nancy, Nancy, I'm sure you're familiar with wavelengths, but make sure that you check that. There's a lot of Spanish resources there, and when we came to NSCA at San Antonio, we brought a ton of Spanish. We were surprised at how many people didn't take them. We thought there'd be a lot more need for that. So yeah,
really? Okay.
So know that they're available, and especially, I can definitely help you find that, but look on Wavelength because they're definitely there.
Okay, that sounds great.
Yeah, and I see here that Laura and Jim have both chimed in here on the chat, and at Carson High, and Jim, I'm sorry, you're in Nevada, right? I know you can't hear me, but you can't respond, but that he has Muon. Boy, that's not a program I'm familiar with. I think somebody who's more familiar with this stuff should probably speak for Jim. That he's going to be working with some data there, and Project Recon. Nice, studying the Kuiper Belt objects. That's going to be exciting.
Very cool.
Yeah.
To muon detectors, as in detecting muons coming from the sun. Is that what you mean, Jim? Oh, very cool. Very cool. I'd love to see some pictures of those if you could. Maybe post them to Wigio. That would be great. Yeah, you should definitely stick them online so as we can all take a look. And you managed to pick up some of the CMEs from last week. That's cool. I'm actually going to have a quick chat about that in a little while. So maybe you could share some of your data with us when we're talking about the flares in a few minutes, if you have some to hand. Did you pick up anything from the magnetometers as well?
Mm-hmm. Oh, very cool. That's exciting.
That is exciting.
Wow.
What is a muon?
Do you want to answer, Jim, or do you want me to explain?
Bad electronics. That is a beautiful image.
Chubby.
Wow, 200 times? I have just learned so much, and I'm such a physics nerd, and I have learned so much just hanging around you guys. This is amazing. This is so great. And Laura Orr's in Ukiah, Oregon, and she gets to go to be part of the Nightheart program, or already is part of the Nightheart program. Sorry, and be working with kids on a project looking for baby stars in a bright rim cloud. Wow. I will also be working with 4-H Rocketry Club on summer projects for their fair and hope to help them make solar viewing screens like it was on the Wigio. Nice. And Lynn, was that yours, Lynn, that you shared? Was that your resource, Lynn?
The sun funnels?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome. So look, there's that good resource going right to work for your community already. Other than what, and she's building a barn and riding her horse as much as possible. I girl after my own heart, man. That's awesome. Great summer, Laura.
And I see that Laura's magnetometers also picked up some of those solar storms.
So who haven't we heard from yet?
We haven't heard from Maggie, and we haven't heard from Wendy, and we haven't heard from some of us not Helio teachers, us forum people, but and I see Lisa's on too. I just don't see her picture. But we haven't heard from Lynn. Lynn, you haven't. Oh no, yes you did. I'm sorry, Lynn. I forgot you did. We saw your eyeball. I forgot. So Maggie, do you want to go?
Okay. Can you hear me now?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I'm Maggie from Maui, and I have a very busy summer. I'm finishing 4 STEM units. One of them is on heliophysics, which uses the Common Core state standards with argumentation. So it's all on the argument protocol, and science teachers have to do that as part of the Common Core. I've been accepted to be a part of the Earth Institute, which is George Matsumoto from Monterey Bay Aquarium and Research in California is coming here and working with the Dark Energy Biosphere Group and the Center for Microbial Oceanography. EARTH stands for Education and Research Testing Hypotheses, and we'll be working with real-time data that we get from different satellites and such, I believe. And that's in July. I also have an Island Energy Institute I'm doing with alternative energy. Yeah, I've got lots of things to do this summer. Very excited.
Wow.
And I wanted to say, what comes up, Andy, when your name comes up is A. Nelson for me, and Anela means angel in Hawaiian, and so when I see your name, I think angel.
I'm gonna remember that and use that one.
Purely a coincidence, I'm sure.
Different kind of celestial work. Thanks for sharing that, Maggie.
Mm-hmm.
That's my Adler login, so everything that, everything I do in the forums then is, or at least at Adler, is just our first initial and our last name, so it just goes in that way. I apologize, but now I don't feel bad about it.
I'll go next. I'm Wendy Ashford, Wisconsin, and I don't have any plans for the summer. Just being a mom.
That's nice.
Stuff, I guess.
Important.
Yeah.
What about, how does living in Wisconsin impact how you teach heliophysics, Wendy? I know.
I don't know. Does it affect it?
I would say yes, just knowing that you've been involved in the GEONS program.
Yeah, right. Oh, we do that. Yep, working with the GEONS data. That's the only thing I'm involved in, I guess,
What about the length of your day? Because I know when I grew up in Ireland, as you can probably tell by my accent, and when I moved to California, one of the most striking things for me was the length of the day. So in California, the day length is kind of the same. It varies a little bit from season to season, but in Ireland, it doesn't get dark until close to midnight during the summer. I just wonder if you have similar kind of effects where you have super long days during the summer.
Yeah, now, 8:30 the sun sets, so yeah, that's true. Very depressing in the winter.
That's true. Yeah, I remember it would be dark before we'd get out of school during the winter.
Oh, Lord, that's not.
Wendy, it could get worse.
Yeah, I know. I know.
We're going to have a latitude contest. Who's more north than who? I think Vic
wins that one.
Well, Wendy, you could be seeing the Northern Lights with
we've
the.
We've been watching it. Haven't seen any yet, though.
Oh, there's going to be some with the solar maximum. That'll be cool.
Did anybody see any aurora after the storms of the last couple of days? Was there any Northern Lights attached to those?
Not in Chano. Yeah, too many clothes.
We were overcast until last night, so the magnetometer said it was up there, but we couldn't see it.
Well, Dar, do you want to introduce yourself? I know you did a lovely job on the Wikio, but maybe
that was off the cuff. Yeah, usually there's kind of a set professional bio that you put on, your websites and everything else. This one I was like, I'm just going to type and describe myself, and here I go. So, hi everyone, I'm Darlene. I'm over at Berkeley at Center for Science Education at Space Science Laboratory, and I have been here for more than 10 years now, which kind of freaks me out. So I came here after graduating from Cal. Was a rhetoric major of all things, but I love it. Total humanities, but I always loved the sciences and always tutored math and kept up with things. And I have an engineer for a husband, so we have lots of nerdy dinner conversations about, we call it science hour. We discuss like scientific-y things, and then we get off into crazy tangents and argue about stuff. But I've worked a lot with teachers. I've helped host a lot of the workshops here, helped plan a lot of the activities, especially developing the hands-on stuff, the curriculum, little lessons that are easy make and takes. That's my favorite thing. I love things that are easy to understand, visual, compelling, interesting, fun. You want something that kids can play with, that can really get juices flowing and get good discussions going. My favorite age group, I love working with middle school kids. So I've led youth groups before. I've taken kids to camp. I've taken a whole group of girls to India to work in an orphanage. And I personally love the 7th, 8th grade age. I think it's such a vital age. I think that's when key decisions are made and people can go one way or they can go that way. And so I like to step in and make them go that way if I can. So yeah, definitely I work with a lot with youth, especially with girls, but all youth. And lately for our group, I've done a lot with teacher ambassadors. So our other teacher ambassador program, the Heliophysics Educator Ambassadors, or HEA, I was part of that. So I met a lot of you guys there, which was very cool. That ran for 3+ years. Well, 4, and then continuing. But we're also starting a new one now called MEA, which is off the Mars mission called MAVEN, the MAVEN Educator Ambassadors. And so that's gearing up for our first meeting this July in Berkeley, so I'm excited about that. So anything else? I love gardening. I play bass guitar. I love knitting, so I'm like asking Andy what she's knitting right there. That's about it. I think my summer plans, I have a new 4-month-old baby, so I'm excited to introduce him to swimming at the pool. We'll see how he likes that. And just doing homey things around the house. We like to remodel, so we are doing that almost all the time. My husband and I, and we get our kids involved. My daughter has her little
ladybug hammer that she helps us with. And we just, I just strap my baby on my back and we just work on stuff. And what else do we do? That's not it. I'm looking forward to the nice weather and cooking outside and having fun.
Yeah, don't worry about things.
That's the girl who lives at Berkeley. Nancy, you want to go? Or Karen? Karen, why don't you introduce yourself, or Lisa?
Are we introducing ourselves or just answering your other question? I think I've introduced myself.
Tell us who you are and where you're at. And
Okay. I'm Karen Haug. I'm at Berkeley. I've also been here more than 10 years. And it's a great group to work with. I actually was an English major in school, but we had a lot of fun science nerdism in my family growing up. My dad worked for the Harvard Center for Astrophysics most of my life, and spent a lot of summer evenings laying out on sleeping bags, looking at the stars. So that's something that I'm looking forward to doing this summer when I go up to the mountains. Being in California, as far as anything astronomical, is much better than being in Boston, though, because you have a lot more better weather. But I'm looking forward to going back there later in the summer to visit my family, and hopefully, I don't know, not totally sure what we're doing. I think we'll have a family reunion up in New Hampshire.
I can go next. So I'm Claire. I'm easy to spot. I'm the one who sounds funny. I have been at the Space Sciences Lab for a little over 3 years, and this is my office. It's chaos at the moment. My office mate is out. His wife just had twins, so that's always fun. My summer ahead is sort of hectic. There's a lot of stuff happening. We have some really exciting projects happening here at work. We have the Maven Education Ambassadors that Darlene is involved in. I'm also very active in planning the launch activities for Maven, which is the next mission to Mars. Separate to that, my parents are getting ready to emigrate from Ireland to Texas. So any suggestions on Southeast Texas, greatly appreciated. And yeah, I have just a lot of travel and plans laid out for the rest of the summer. My brother is coming to visit in a couple of weeks, which will be very exciting.
So I'll go next. I'm Nancy Alley, also at Berkeley. And I just want to say it's so exciting to see all your faces. I know that we've done introductions before, but it is nice to finally put some current faces to names. I will admit to my photo that I provided before is several years old. As you may tell by the long hair, I think in the photo it's about up to there. So, in any case, over the summer, I've got another project that I'm working on that is working with middle school girls, actually, in after-school programs around heliophysics. And we're connecting up UC Berkeley students in physics and astronomy with the after-school programs going back in the fall. So the summer is going to be a lot of planning for that, which I'm really looking forward to. And then the other thing that I wanted to mention about this summer is there's a conference called the Global Hands-On Universe Conference, which brings together educators, both formal educators, teachers, and informal educators from around the world, focused on astronomy. And I was thinking about putting together a proposal to let that group of teachers know about what we're doing here, especially since we are kind of moving towards this more online virtual meeting model. And so I thought that some of the teachers involved with Global Hands-On Universe might be interested in that because they're spread out all over the world. So I just tossed that out there now because if there's anyone in this group in particular who might be interested in perhaps being an author on submitting a paper for that conference, you can let me know and we can start to have some conversations about that.
I just put the link on our chat window. It looks really cool, Nancy.
Yeah, the conference itself is in Greece, which I would love to go to.
I know.
That is unlikely to happen. So it does sound like there's a virtual participation option, but I'm a little unclear as to whether it's actually virtual in the sense that kind of we're doing now, or just you submit a PowerPoint which they then show to the conference participants. I'm not quite sure how that works. So I'm still getting more information about that.
So I guess I'm the last person to go.
No, Lisa's also up.
Oh, good. But I'm Ricky, and I'm here in Berkeley, California as well. I love to knit too. Haven't done anything in a while though. This summer I'll be playing basketball again full time. I already lost my front tooth in my first game on Saturday. And I'll be working with a group of teenagers to teach them science and art with Claire.
And Lisa.
And Lisa. There's a lot of other people here in Berkeley.
Dawn, are you on the audio? Can you talk? I know we have.
Hi. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Hi, everybody. Sorry about my AOL picture or whatever that is. I am very excited for this summer, actually, because I don't have a lot of plans. For the past several years, with the launch of the Van Allen probes that it used to be called radiation belt storm probes, it was we had a couple of very hectic summers, and this summer it's a little bit slower, so I'm really looking forward to spending some time with friends and family and going hiking and camping and things like that. We have the daily work, and we also have some projects going on, but for instance, the Mars Education Student Data Teams, we are working with a group of high school students that are looking at actual Mars data from the CRISM instrument, and some other projects like that, but it's a lot slower pace. And geographically, I guess I'm in Laurel, Maryland, which is right along the 95 corridor between Baltimore and Washington, and it's a pretty well-lit area, so it's hard to do astronomy. So that kind of influences heliophysics education in a positive way. Since we can't see the night skies all the time, I've partnered with the astronomy club here, and we do a lot of daytime events.
Lisa, I know that you're hoping that you'll escape the introduction.
No, I'm here. Okay, so hi, I'm from UC Berkeley Space Sciences Lab. Anyway, yeah, during the summer I'm going to be doing an open studios. I do art on the side, so that's kind of exciting because I had to get my studio already. It's been like a total mess since we moved in, and that's kind of my impetus to get going and getting that cleaned up, is to have an open studios. So I'm also teaching art in the summer for the art program, the science and art. So I'm very interested in whoever it was that had the conference they were going to that had the art and science component to it. So that's pretty much it for my summer. And the rest of it, I might take a vacation later on for a birthday, but oh yeah, that is true. I'm going to Las Vegas for that. So
Anyway, that's my summer.
Thank you, Lisa. That's a great summer, it sounds like.
Yeah.
Great.
I also want to say I'm not in the same office I was last time. As you can tell, my backdrop is a little different.
Hey guys, my phone's in the red. I was almost fully charged, and this is chewing up a lot of battery. I don't have my charger with me, and I don't have a computer near me. And I know I'm next on the agenda, and my phone will die real quick.
All right.
Do you want to try talking about it, Lynn, or are you just gonna, or do you feel like you need to go?
If you don't mind jumping ahead in the agenda and let me go, and when I disappear,
We'll miss your eyeball. But yeah, so Lynn has shared some resources, and after she's presented, I'll show you what I've done on the Wigio. But Lynn, why don't you tell us about what you have to share?
Okay. Our club found out about a sun funnel, and we made it where you take a gas funnel and a whole bunch of other little things, and you attach it to your telescope, and it projects onto a piece of material. And somebody else made one with a piece of vellum. And when you are doing a large group, like little kids who have a hard time seeing through the eyepiece, or large groups, we do our solar parties out at Yellowstone National Park at Old Faithful, and we can have hundreds of people by. But you can get in front of the thing, and it's funny, even though you've got the sun funnel there, people will still try to put their eye on it, which is really funny. But it projects, which is really nice. I added a link today. They actually took a picture of me at Astronomy Day last year, and it has a picture of the 90 millimeter that we have it on. And so you can see that. If you follow the link that I added, it will show you directions on how to put it together. It has what it looks like. And like I said, you can have different things on it. There you go. The piece of fabric, the Daytex, is $10, they say. That's the most expensive part. Most of this stuff you might even have laying around. Someone actually made one, like I said, with a piece of vellum. It just, because it goes onto an eyepiece, it's then projecting out. So if you have something for it to project onto, it's a really cool tool.
So Lynn, in terms of putting it together, about how long would you estimate it takes? Like it seems like it's fairly simple to put together.
It is. It takes up an hour. The hardest part is going out and getting the materials. Once you have the materials in front of you, it doesn't take, oh gosh, you got to cut the parts away and screw in the clamps. So it takes about an hour. But like you see, if you're doing large groups, people can see that. And then we also have white light filters on our telescopes, and we have a couple H alphas. Also have a sun spotter. When we're in Yellowstone, after it goes by, often they'll look at that and have a little more time, and something really is going on. We've got solar flares, and they'll look through the
Yeah, so Lynn, when you told us about it last week, there were a couple of us on the test call, and we're just chatting about what we were doing, and Lynn had mentioned this, and it just seems like such a great idea to me, because it really changes the dynamics of having a long line in front of the telescope and just being able to, serve more people. and have those discussions, because it can be really hard for people to identify what they're looking at. So I can see where having multiple people look at it together could make a big difference.
Oh, most definitely. And that picture from the newspaper right there, it shows it's on my 90 millimeter, and I have it down low just because usually for astronomy day we get a lot of little kids. And I hate it when they walk up to the telescope and they grab the eyepiece and pull it down to them. So we put it down kind of low so the little kids look right into it. So if you have any questions, holler. My phone keeps having the battery thing plopping up, so I'm surprised I'm getting as much time on it as I am. It's a great tool if you do get lost, if you do a lot of outreach. You can get a lot of people gathered around. We had it with Transpacific.
Your sound is going, Lynn, but we still see you.
Okay. I just have like there. Yeah, okay.
Does anybody have any questions for Lynn, or? I see somebody said about the alternative fabric, but you did address that with the vellum paper, right?
Correct. And the Daytex, they say it costs $10. The guy who actually put ours together, he actually had some of that laying around.
Thanks, Diane. That's a great tip. The Rainbow Symphony place.
Gosh. So I'm going to sign up before my phone gets too much, and then I will see you guys later. I'm dying to see what Claire's going to talk about.
Good. I hope you let us know, Lynn. You've been great to not only with your resources and all your information, but I'm so glad you've picked all these alternative ways to join this community, so we can hear from you how it works and what to expect. So,
yeah, thanks, Lynn, for sharing with us.
Use your phone again.
Thank you.
And keep in mind that this is being recorded, so you can check it out afterwards too, so you won't miss Claire's presentation.
I appreciate that. Thanks, guys. See you soon.
Bye-bye.
Thank you so much.
Bye, Lynn.
So, Claire, shall we turn it over to you to talk about the latest news in the solar flare world?
Sure. So, I'm not sure how many of you would be aware of the fact that we've had some pretty exciting solar activity over the past few days. So under normal circumstances, any kind of a large solar flare is always eagerly received by the solar physics community. However, the activity that we've had at the beginning of this week and over the weekend has been the most solar activity that we've had since the last solar cycle. So this is completely unprecedented, and the whole solar physics, heliophysics community are drastically scrambling to try and write research papers on this immediately. So there's people who are right this minute working on this data because it is so exciting and completely unprecedented. All of these came completely out of the view, or out of the blue, I should say. So my plan was to share some resources with you and to give you kind of an idea of what it's like when we're trying to figure out what happened. When you hear, hey, there's been a solar flare, how we go about, figuring out that it's been a big one, or how impressive it is, or where it's located on the sun. So I'm going to share my screen. Let's hope this works. Okay, is that working?
Yes.
My kitten.
Cute.
Okay, so here we go. So these are, there was four giant flares, one after another, last week. So the X-class flares are the biggest classification, and so there's four classifications. There's A, 5, A, B, C, M, and X. And each of these is 10 times bigger than the previous one. So the X class is, 100,000 times bigger than an A class flare. And we had 4 of these in rapid succession, which is completely unprecedented. We haven't had something like this since maybe 2004. So this was really exciting. So all of these flares happened right on the very edge of the sun. So these are 4 different events that happened one after another. I think there was roughly 1 per day. You got the edge of the sun here, and these are pictures taken with the Solar Dynamics Observatory. So you can see just how really, really clear everything is and how beautiful all of the pictures are. Let me try and minimize this. And so you can, get right in here and look at the detail of what's happening. So this big bright flash here, it was the flare, and so you can see they happened at the same site every single time. And so you can just about make out on this picture that it has kind of this pointy shape, which is the sign of a really energetic flare. So this was really exciting when we started to see this happen. So just for the record, I've minimized my chat window. So if other people see questions coming through on the chat window, feel free to interrupt me because I just can't see it right now. So these were our 4 flares. You can start to see these lovely post-arcade flare loops, this big long arcade here, which is a sign of a large solar flare as well. So these were some of the first pictures. So let me go to this site here. So this is a site called Solar Monitor. And it's the go-to site for most people in solar physics. It's not the prettiest of web pages, but if you're interested in solar activity, I recommend that you get yourself familiar with this because it's just a wealth of information. It's so helpful. There's four primary pages. There's this one here that says main. Then we have far side right here. We have SDO shortwave and SDO long wave. And basically all different kinds of views of the sun, every view that you can possibly expect you can get on this one web page. And you can do all kinds of zooming in. So you can zoom in here, you can decide, so this was the active region that gave us all those crazy solar flares last week. I can click on it, it will zoom in, it will show me this is the magnetic field. I can decide to look at the corona, it will tell me what it looks like. I can change my dates, I can go back a few days. And so this is a really helpful tool if you want to get some context for what was going on if there was high solar activity. But to find out exactly when the activity was, can everybody see this goes button on the right-hand side of the page? Mm-hmm. Am I going too fast, or is this doing okay? Okay, I'm going to take that as we're doing okay. So if we click on X-rays, this tells us the X-rays that we see coming from the sun. So it's really just a line plot. It's just what we call a light curve. It just takes all of the emission from the sun in X-rays, it counts them all together and gives one total number. And so when the sun is quiet, we usually end up with this. We just look at the red one for the most part. The blue one you can ignore for right now. For the most part, it's usually pretty quiet and flat like it is here on the right-hand side of this plot. But if I go back a week to when we had all these solar flares, you can see these huge big spikes. Can everybody see these spikes? Yeah. And so these are the solar flares that we were looking at. These are the 4 really big solar flares. And so there's a couple of signatures that we look for. So first of all, see the way it's this almost vertical line to begin with. It goes straight up to begin with, and then it has this more gradual sort of decay. So we call this the impulsive phase because it's an impulsive release of energy. Everything happens at the same time, and then we have a gradual decay back to normality. And we get another impulse, and then we get this other gradual decay. So these are the signs of some really exciting solar flares. And there's another really wonderful web page called The Sun Today that I can't recommend highly enough. It's a really helpful page. They have a Facebook page, so if you're a Facebook or you're a Twitter fan, you can sign up for their announcements. And to be honest with you, I actually get more information about solar flares, especially in real time, from my Facebook page than I do from anywhere else. Because somewhere in the world there's somebody watching the sun, and so if they see it released, they'll send a notification, and then it spreads like wildfire. Whereas if I had to keep an eye on this myself all the time, then that takes a much longer time to, or it's a much more intensive time. So it's all about community and support. So,
Claire?
Yeah?
Jim's wanting to know if there's a site to get proton flux from the sun.
Yes, so you can actually do that from this here. So on the right-hand side, you've got GOES, you got X-rays, and you can also do protons and electrons. So you can see this is already promising because we have this decay here, which means if we go back a few days that we should have had an increase, which we did. So you can see the red line, which is the 10 MeV protons, which are, they're not super high energy, but you can see that there's a drastic increase in them. But on May 15th, you can see that there was also an increase in the higher energy protons, the 50 mega electron volt protons. So you can see them right here. And we can look at the electrons also at the same time and see if there was any change. So this is kind of a crazier plot to look at, but I just give you an idea of what we see. Let me go back to a quiet period so we get some comparison. So you can see the humps here. These are just from the day length. So you're going from daytime to nighttime to daytime. But then as we go into the period with all of these solar flares, you can see that we start to get all of these huge changes and fluctuations as a result of the solar activity. So can everybody see that in the purple line and the yellow line?
Yeah, this is really amazing, Claire.
So it's a really wonderful web page. There's all kinds of things that you can look at here. There's it will give you the list of all of the active regions that are on the sun at the moment. It will tell you how complicated they are, although you need a bit of background knowledge to be able to understand the complication or the complexity of them. But what I really like is that if you go to the far side page, especially because the flares that we were looking at were happening right on the very edge of the sun, if we go to stereo B image, that's right here, stereo B is, if we were looking at the sun, stereo B is on our left hand side at about 90 degrees to where we are. So this is essentially, if we are looking at this point right in the middle of the sun from stereo B, then the Earth is over here. So this is where SDO is, looking directly facing the sun here. So we have this perpendicular viewpoint. So that means that we can see whatever is going on here. And so all of these active regions, let me go back again to the high activity, all of these active regions that you see here, this is where, oh, we can't zoom in on that way. This is where all those solar flares were coming from at the time, this little blob right here. So it's just a great way of keeping context and, you know, really getting a full story of what's happening and making sure that we can, you know, fully understand what's going on. So let me real quick go back to here. So this is, actually I have this in a set of stills that I will use instead.
Claire, while you're setting, Claire, is there a way to print out the images that you were showing us? Some people are having ideas about, so the kids can see the differences over time.
Oh, sure, yeah, you can, let me see if I go here. I think you can do this and you can download PNG, which is just like a JPEG. It's just a standard picture file. And so you can just download the PNG file of various days and different wavelengths of a zoomed in area, whatever it is that you want to do. So you could certainly do that. You should, absolutely. So my recommendation is if you're printing things out to use the SDO data because they tend to be very high quality data. So if we go, can I do this way? No. So you can see when we zoom in, you can see that they're nice, sharp pictures. I don't know if the internet is fast enough to be able to pick up this, but
I'm seeing it. I'm seeing it as you're showing it. That's pretty cool, Claire.
Okay, so the last thing that I wanted to talk about today is, of course, the effects on the Earth, and the GEONS teachers will have an idea about some of this. So this picture right here is kind of complex. I want you to forget about the two pictures on the right-hand side, and I just want you to look at the circular one on the left-hand side. So right in the very middle, we have a white circle, which is the sun. And then we have circles and squares all around, and the circles represent planets and the squares represent different spacecraft. So you can see on the very, very top, we have a little legend here: Earth, Mars, Mercury, Venus, so on and so on. So the Earth is over here on the right-hand side. It's this little yellow one here. And then we have these different colors in a spiral coming out of the sun. And the reason that this is in a spiral, this is a very famous spiral called the Parker spiral. And this is the way the corona, the plasma from the sun, comes out through space. So it doesn't come out in a straight line, it comes out in a spiral. And if you, the easiest way I think about this is that if you have a pot of paint and you stir the paint in a circle, that you're kind of going to drag paint behind you, and the same kind of thing happens with the sun. So all of these lines are as a result of the magnetic field from the sun, and they're all stuck inside of the sun. They're all trapped to the plasma of the sun here. So as the sun spins around, the magnetic field kind of gets dragged along behind it. And so that's why we end up with a spiral sort of feature here. And then the green parts here are just areas where we have different different densities of the plasma. So this is usually as a result of a coronal hole. So that means that there's probably a coronal hole somewhere on the front side of the sun that's providing this big burst of higher density material. However, what I want you to do is watch what happens now. So these are some of the CMEs that came from the solar flares of last week. So can you see the CME, as the CME moves out through the solar system, how it changes everything?
Wow.
Oh,
wow. You can really see how it affects the solar system. This is from a model called ENLIL, and they make these for every coronal mass ejection that comes from the sun, whether it's Earth directed or not. So keep an eye again on where the Earth is right here, and we'll see what sort of effect the CME had on the Earth. And this will help understand why maybe we didn't get much aurora last week from this. So you can see that only the very edge of the CME actually interacts with the Earth right here. So if this was heading directly towards the Earth, then we should expect some really fabulous aurora at night, but because it was directed almost perpendicular, then we didn't see so much. So I have a different picture right here. So this is from the 19th of May, and you can see that there was another CME. So this CME right here that is directed directly at the Earth. So that means that on the 19th of May, there should have been some amount of aurora happening in the sky, because this is the CME. Unfortunately, I only have one picture of this event, and you can see that it's headed directly towards the Earth. So the Earth, we have the CME, and then Spitzer right here is just the name of a telescope, but it's the same kind of concept. So it's kind of a complicated picture, but it's also really helpful in understanding what you can expect, whether or not we're going to get northern lights, how intense they can be, and various other different kinds of effects. So it'll be really useful, especially for those of you with magnetometers, if you're not familiar with these, these could be a great help to predicting when you're going to get some activity. So I will leave you with this sort of a picture, and I think this is a good time to take some questions if you guys. Oh, sorry, that I have one more thing that I wanted to show you, and this actually was why I was late to the telecon, because I was trying to download this. So I'm going to copy this link into the chat box, and you guys can look yourself. I'll also play it here in the hopes that we can just play it straight up, and the browser will be fast enough to keep up with it. But you should definitely take a look at this in your own time also.
Also put it on the Wikio, Claire.
Okay. So this is a video of the Solar Dynamics Observatory, and we've got 3 different temperature here. So we've got the corona, we've got the higher corona, which is showing this sort of yellow-green stuff around the edge, and then we have the blue emission, which is the middle part of the corona, and then we have 304, which is the chromosphere, which is almost the surface. It's not quite the surface, but it's the next level up. And so this is the period of time over these series of really big flares. So just watch this region here in particular, but I'll play it a few times, and as you see it, watch for activity elsewhere. So we call this a thing called sympathetic flaring, where you have a big eruption on one side of the sun that triggers something on completely the other side. So let me know if this is playing effectively, and if we can just pause it and you guys can watch yourself. Those bright flashes are the solar flares. So it's playing kind of fast, so it might be helpful to download this and watch it in your own time. And I can try and make some other ones. So you can see there's a CME coming off here, there's another one happening here. I can make some other ones that are a bit slower also, so watch, and up here. And so the reason that we combine different colors here is as a result of the fact that we have different temperatures, and we use different temperatures all at the same time because they tell us about different parts of the atmosphere. So for example, if we were looking at the chromosphere, which is the orangey color in the on the disk, then the orangey color tells us about the low down loops, but it won't tell us anything about the upper atmosphere. And likewise, the upper atmosphere is not going to tell us too much about what's happening close to the surface. So right over here, let me see if I can pause this. Let's see, there was a really nice, oh, I know what I'll do, I'll play this on.
Did the Van Allen probes pick up a lot of signal from these ejections?
Not that
I
I'm
don't
aware
know.
of. This
Somebody.
is Dawn. Sorry, Claire. Not that I'm aware of, but while Claire was talking about it, I just wrote to two of the scientists and asked them that question, so I can post the answer on Wigio.
Okay.
I was thinking that probably not a whole lot because it wasn't a direct hit, but it'd be interesting to see if there was something there.
Yeah.
So just to go back to this movie real quick, what's really interesting here, if you look on the upper left-hand side, which coincidentally on the sun, even though this is the west side of the Earth, this is actually called the east side of the sun, which takes a lot of getting used to. As a new graduate student, I always got that confused. But take a look here, and what you'll see is there's like an eruption of material, and then following this, we get this really bright flash of the solar flare. Wow. They have this weird eruption, and it sort of collapses back down again. And then bam, we get our solar flare. So this is the first X-class flare that we see. And then we move on, and keep an eye on the right-hand side. On the bottom part of the sun right here, we're going to get a coronal mass ejection. We get a little filament liftoff. But at the same time, we have this the post-flare arcade forming right here. And then a couple of hours later, we get, here we go, bam, another solar flare, which triggers a coronal mass ejection on the completely other side of the sun. You can see this filament eruption right here. And this is only covering the period of the first 3 out of the 4 solar flares. And then we've got the final solar flare of this series right here, and then you get this lovely, beautiful series of post-flare loops. So there you go. You guys are free to download this and have a look at it in your own time, and I'll try and upload it to the Wigio also, and I'll try and make some more movies, or if I find some more movies, I'll be sure to share them for you there.
And Claire, speaking of movies, Jim Bean put a link in the chat window to a YouTube video of a comet hitting the sun, producing a solar flare. So maybe we can add that to the Wigio, and then you can take a look at it and see. His question is it possible?
Okay, let me just see.
So we're getting a little short on time here.
Okay.
So maybe that's something that you
we'll
could
do
follow
after.
up on afterwards.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what I was going to suggest, is that we do that at the end. But I am making a list of all these resources from the chat window, and I will post them on the Wigio as well. So, and I have Jim's as well.
Okay.
And Claire, when you slowed down the video, that was really awesome. Then you could really see it.
Yeah. I made this earlier on, and I had it sped up because it was taking ages to run, but I realized that might actually have been more helpful for people, so I'll make it again. For anybody who is interested in making their own, JHelioViewer, I can't recommend it enough. It's an application that you can use, so go for it. Okay, that is me. So I'm happy to take any questions either on the chat or afterwards or on Wigio or however you might like.
Tell us the name of that viewer that you used to make the movie.
It's called J Helio Viewer, and I'll just, maybe this actually would be a useful thing, another meeting, to do a quick tutorial on J Helio Viewer, because it really is super helpful, and you can just make your own movies and you make them look however you like.
Yeah, that's interesting. I could imagine we could do a fairly lengthy tutorial on that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that would be really, I think that's something, as long as when you do that, Claire, you can show me how to use my 3D Sun app at the same time. I'm confounded by that one as well. So that was lovely and very informative. I was like, oh.
Well, let me do one quick last thing, and then I promise I'll give you back your meeting. So, here. Oh, okay, never mind. It won't let me do it. Oh, there we go. So this is J Helio Viewer. And so you can just play the movies. You make them look however you want. You just put your own dates in, and it just pops them right out for you. Okay, here you go. All right, so you know where to find me if you've got questions, and we should do a tutorial on J Helio Viewer.
No.
Thanks, Claire. That was great.
Yeah.
So the last item, well, except for wrap up, on our agenda is to have a short discussion about possibilities for the June meeting. And I know many of you have had questions about this. So we just wanted to share with you some of the things that we had been thinking, and get to put that in your heads, and then we can continue the discussion over Wigio. So let me see if I'm going to share. Okay, so basically, in terms of the June meeting, what we had planned to do for the in-person was to have 2 days or a day and a half of time together, and that the goals of this time together would be to, one, so that we could meet in person, and then get some updates from current missions, science, heliophysics missions, but really have the bulk of it be on planning for moving forward with the larger community in terms of like how are we going to get other teachers involved? What are the kinds of events that would be used? What are different roles and models that we could use? So some of the coordinators we were talking about how to accomplish these same goals without having it be in person, and using Zoom and using Wigio instead of being in person. And so basically these are our thoughts about it, but of course we want to get your feedback, and it is coming up fairly soon too. So I know we kind of need to balance the end of the year. You've got all of these commitments, but we sure do value your input. So with all of this, please, as much as possible, let us know what's going to work for you. In terms of logistics, we would like to have you all set aside those 2 days, the June 18th and 19th, which we had planned for. Of course, now we need to take into consideration the different time zones. So what we would like at this point is, if you can still reserve the daytime hours for this effort, and then we'll come out with a schedule in your local time. But the intent is not to spend all day on the computer or on the phone, because that would just be exhausting for everyone. So what we were going to propose is to have a mixture of whole group sessions, such as like using Zoom right now, and then in addition to that, have smaller group meetings, which could be done through regions so that you're getting together with people in your same time zone. So this would not be at the same, like for example, people who are on towards the East Coast would be meeting at a certain time of the day. People who are in the Pacific, Alaska, Hawaii time zone would be meeting at a different time. And then we would all get together at a certain time that's convenient for everyone. And that there would also be individual time too. So when you're not meeting with anyone, but perhaps you're reading an article and responding to reflections and maybe writing up your comments on or thoughts on the discussion board on Wigio. So that basically the idea is that we would have a series of so-called sessions or assignments that would be done, some in groups, some in small groups, and some on your own over these 2 days. That we would structure this in a way that is very mindful of all of the things that need to be considered, like lunch hours. We're not all going to get hungry at the same time. So in order to plan for that and taking breaks, knowing too that whether you're doing this at your school or at home, it's different than being in person in a different location. And so you probably have other commitments, obligations. You may have pets, you know, in your home, or kids running around, or if you're at your school, you may have your principal or other teachers popping in. And so so we do want to kind of plan for that and make it a workable situation. In terms of the types of discussions or things to focus on, knowing that the future of NASA education is uncertain, we would really like to get you as lead teachers set up so that worst case scenario, if there's no NASA support for this effort beyond the end of September, that those of you who want to continue on are in a position that you can do that, if that's something that you want to do. So we were thinking of having some parts of it modeling the types of interactions that could be extended to a wide variety of teachers. Things like having a science update, the kind of thing that Claire just did, having teachers share the kind of thing that Lynn just did, and so look at, okay, so these are some of the things that could be opened up to potentially hundreds of teachers. And if so, what are the considerations that need to happen to make that workable? And so have some discussions around that. And then also take a look at between June or July and September, do we want to plan for a particular event, so to speak, that gets opened up and invite teachers from all different NASA heliophysics programs, and to test that out before the end of September, and if so, do some planning around that. So I'll put this information on Wigio, and I know that many of you will need to take a closer look at it and think about it, and especially when we get into the actual scheduling of time zones and whatnot. But I'm just wondering if any of you have any specific thoughts that you would like to share at this point around this topic.
I would like to jump in a little bit too, Nancy, and say that in order to help us create this agenda and take into considerations on how we can make sure that this is an effective and meaningful opportunity for everyone, that I'll be putting out some questions on the Wigio, and I've kind of started already, but those asynchronous conversations that people can contribute to are really going to help. Rather than, I know that it's even been said by some that, it's a long time between our meetings. And one way that we can help fill that space a little bit and keep the conversation going is by giving your input on the Wigio. And so when you do see those questions, or even go back to the feeds, your input is so important there, because that does directly go into our conversations as the facilitating group on how we can make sure that we're supporting those pieces that you're bringing up. So any of your input on after this meeting until we send out these ideas are really, really going to help shape that. And so I know it's the end of the year. I know you are all so busy, but if you can just take a few minutes and when you see something pop up, just add your 2 cents worth or a comment or even after now, you've done a great job on those surveys that Ricky puts up on adding your comments there. We find them just very, very helpful and very informative to us. But in the meantime, those conversations that we can have back and forth between all of us as a community are really going to help shape what we're able to really make it a very rich opportunity for all of you.
So Maggie had said in the chat question about her willingness to get up early. Thanks, Maggie. That's awfully early in my world. That's awfully early, but that's definitely appreciated because basically we've got a span of I think it's about 6 hours of time zone. So in terms of the whole group meetings, we would be looking to have those in the middle part of the day. Well, in the morning for those of you who are on Hawaii, Alaska, Pacific time, and then that would be early afternoon, basically, for those of you who are on Atlantic and Eastern time. But it could be, for example, that after a full group meeting, there might be a small group meeting, which for the people on the West Coast regions might be later in the same day, and those of you on the East Coast, it might actually be the next morning. We're kind of looking at that as a model too. Does anyone have any immediate concerns that come up around this, around either the dates or the times or anything in particular?
No. I think it's a really great idea. I like the fact that we're using different forms of media to be able to meet. I think it's just amazing. Me coming from an era, because I'm sure I'm probably older than the majority of y'all, but me coming from a time where, just getting 2 people on a landline phone that has a rotary dial on it to this is just fascinating. So I think it's terrific. I do. I really like this idea.
Thanks, Nancy. And really thanks to all of you for making this happen because this is new to us too. We're kind of just ahead of the curve for using Zoom. And I know there's been some issues with the sound and whatnot, but I think we're able to work all of that out. So it's kind of exciting that it does seem to be a workable solution for us.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay, well, if there aren't any other immediate comments, then I think we can start to wrap up since we are approaching the hour here. But like Andy said, we will be contacting you through Wigio for more feedback and with a proposal for those 2 days. And I also see that there's been some comments on the chat too about maybe some types of content that you'd like to explore during that time. So we'll take a look at that more closely. So Ricky, maybe I can turn it over to you for wrap up.
Okay. So thanks everyone. This was really fun, especially getting a chance to see everyone. So I guess wrap up will be really easy today since most of what we did was talk about some activities from Claire. Thank you, Claire. And from Lynn for sharing your activities with us. And then we looked a little bit at the plans for the June Zoom conference meeting now. So it's going to be an in-person meeting, but now it's going to be on Zoom. So Nancy is going to post the agenda, the itinerary that we have so far, and Dawn is going to list some questions, and we're hoping that everyone will give us feedback to help make sure that our 2 days in June can be spent as efficiently and effectively as possible. So please make sure that you join us on Wigio and let us know what you think and what your ideals are. Thanks again, everyone, and it was really fun seeing you all.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Thanks, Ricky.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So I see in the chat that some of you, and I think Claire, you had offered to stay on a little bit longer.
Yep.
Is that right? Did I?
Yeah, that's no problem.
Okay. So we can keep the Zoom going for another 15 minutes or so. For those of you who would like to stick around and ask Claire questions. And for those of you who choose not to, then it's been great seeing you and talking with you, and we will be in touch soon.
Nancy, it's Karen. Is it okay as far as the notes if I depart now and I could listen to the recording and get them later?
Sure, yeah. Karen Hauk has been taking notes for us today, so that will get posted on Wigio too. So in addition to the actual recording. So thank you very much, Karen, for doing that. And unless, Claire, you have any objections, I think it would be fine to stop taking the notes now, but we will keep the recording going.
That's fine.
Okay, bye, everyone. See you next time.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.
Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Thanks, everybody.
So is anybody sticking around?
Claire, I'd like to ask you a couple questions.
Go for it. I'm all yours.
That spiral thing,
Mm-hmm.
is that a prediction that's done?
It is. So what they do is they take measurements at the sun and they take measurements at the Earth. So they use the Stereo spacecraft and they use another spacecraft called WIND and called ACE. And they're able to basically use the numbers that they can get at all those different points, and they can say what should happen in the meantime. And so they have these very, very complex theoretical models that they can run, and they're crazy things. They take like days to run, and they produce these beautiful movies. So unfortunately, they don't have like a user-friendly archive or anything like that. They usually requested. However, when there is a big solar storm, there's almost always one of these produced. So a quick Google search will work. Another option is to keep an eye on places like the Sun Today, because they always have them produced. They have them on their web pages and things like that.
Okay.
So
I'd like to tie that into our magnetometer.
Yeah, it's really useful. I mean, they're great. It's a great resource. It's a little overwhelming at first. It definitely takes a bit of sort of absorbing to begin with, but I can send you the PDF that I had that had all of the individual frames that you can then kind of go through slowly if you'd like.
Okay, that'd be cool.
So what I'll do is I'll put together a few lines based on what I spoke about today, and I'll post them all to Wigio.
Okay, good, thanks.
No problem. Anybody else have questions? That it? Anything else? This is your perfect opportunity to grill me, or, you know, that burning solar physics question you never quite understood.
Jim's asking about the YouTube
the YouTube video. Okay, let me see if I still have this open. Okay, let me pull up the link to the YouTube video. So I think I actually know which one that you're speaking about, Jim, and that's actually a really hot topic right now, is the effect of comets on the sun. And I think this video in particular was sort of a fortunate event in that it looked like it was coincident, but I think what actually just happened was this comet, I don't even think this comet was a sundiver, they call them. I think this one may even have survived and come back around. But this was really well documented, and I attempted to write a paper on a very similar event. Let me see if I can find my YouTube video. So this was the one that I had put together with a colleague of mine. So we were trying to do it almost. That was a really short version of it. Hang on, let me find the full version. Nope. I'll look for it and I can post it. But we had seen a comet that was diving into the sun, and we thought we saw it. We thought we saw it actually dive into the sun, but unfortunately, it was just we couldn't say for absolute certain whether or not it was the comet's tail or if it was just a coronal loop, and there was just no way. We spent about 6 months poring over this one event, and it was really exhausting and infuriating because we couldn't absolutely say for certain. And then a couple of months later, AIA actually saw a beautiful comet trail right across the front face of the sun, which was really interesting. Let me see if I can find the AIA one. This one got lots of publicity when it happens. So here's this is a news article that you can maybe check out. But as for the event that you were speaking about, Jim, let me just watch it one more time to make sure that it's the one I was thinking about. The thing is that where you can see the comet passing out of the field of view, so into that the occulting disk, which is that plain orange disk, the comet is still a couple of 100 kilometers away from the sun at that point. And before that happens, the CME starts to erupt, and it will have erupted about 15 minutes before we can actually see it. So we have this sort of time lag. So I think it is really just a really beautiful coincidence, which is sort of hilarious. The sun is an unusual creature. Now, that's not to say that it's absolutely for sure, but it might be, I remember this event being discussed quite extensively in the comet community, and what the capability of a comet would be. I mean, it's not unheard of, it's not unfounded, but I think this one was just a coincidence. So I hope that helps. Okay, anybody else? Okay, I think that might be it, guys.
Thanks for sticking around.
Claire, I was going to ask something, but I
go for it. Maybe.
The one that we had the video motion of the spiral and the CME coming out around the sun, it had a blue and a red, and it looked like polarities. But is that the polarity of the?
That's polarity. So it's based on the.
But why would it be just in certain? I mean, isn't the polarity each of the sunspots?
Well,
like
polarity is associated. So you can see here, let me send this link out. Maybe, does that work? Yeah. Okay. So if you look at this this page, you can see that there's red on one side and blue on the other side, and it kind of migrates. And it's the IMF polarity, so it's the interplanetary magnetic field polarity. And so it's the polarity of the entire area between the sun and the rest of the heliosphere, because the sun has many different levels of magnetic field. So it has its huge, big heliosphere magnetic field that goes all the way out to where Voyager is, and then it has magnetic field that reaches that has this spiral attached to it, and that reaches through the planets. And then it has the smaller magnetic fields which generate coronal loops and solar flares. And so they're all one big entity, but they have different representations. And so that's the red and the blue is as a result of the huge big global magnetic field coming from the sun. And it's basically because it has to be cut in half somewhere, and this is just the way they represent it as being cut in half. That help? Not really.
I'll have to think about it.
Think about the sun as being inside a giant bubble, and the bubble has a polarity on one side and a different polarity on the other side, and this is just the dividing line essentially.
Okay. It's still like, I'm thinking north and south.
Yeah, well, there's still north and south. It's just a different sort of. North doesn't always have to be up. It's positive and negative as opposed to north and south.
Right. Okay.
And so that's the difference.
This is all just so fascinating to me, Claire. I am so grateful to you for showing this. I mean, it does. I'm such a visual person, and that totally makes sense to me. And but I was especially impressed by the action-reaction piece. You know, to me, that was just so profound to be able to see. So I'm so grateful for your explanation, for not using me.
I'm glad that you got something out of it.
I also wanted to find out, does the action-reaction thing happen all the time, every single time? Like there's
every time you get a CME, you get the
opposite.
Say that again.
So it'd be the opposite part of the sun would do something like a CME.
Oh, you mean the sympathetic flaring? No, not always.
Oh, okay.
So they have to be connected somehow, and sometimes so they don't have to be directly connected in a really obvious kind of a way. Remember, again, it goes back to the magnetic field. So the magnetic field has this huge, big, overarching magnetic field that goes way, 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 way above the solar surface. And so if you perturb one side of that, that perturbation can propagate all the way through and disturb the other side of it also. So it's like launching a wave on a slinky. If you launch it on one side, the wave is going to travel along the slinky to the other side, and it's going to, if you have something sitting on the slinky on the other end, it's going to knock it off. And it's the same kind of concept, but the slinky in this case goes all the way up, way over the surface of the sun into the outer atmosphere, and then back again into the down onto the surface, and it can perturb whatever structure is right there. So it just happens that if you have two structures that are connected on this big, huge, overarching magnetic field, disturbing one can launch a wave that will disturb the other one, and vice versa. But they're not always, this global magnetic field is not always connected to two structures. So if you have one that has a filament attached to it and the other one just goes straight into the sun, then you're not going to get a sympathetic flaring type situation.
Okay.
Well, I'm glad you guys got something out of it. It's always sort of a precarious situation to go too far into the detail.
Yeah, that was I really liked the animation that you showed with the CME and how it's just missing Earth, or rather that only the side of it is missing Earth.
Yeah,
that's a good.
And that ties back to why there was no major aurora attached to these events, even though they're the biggest events we've had in a long time.
I was wondering about that. It's nice to have an explanation.
So, Claire, that NOAA thing, where the CME came off, and it was like a side blow to that's why we didn't see aurora.
That's because we weren't getting the full intensity of the CME. It wasn't face on. It was only a glancing blow.
Okay, so
there might have still been some aurora, but it wouldn't have been as intense as it would have been if it was face on.
I saw some pictures of aurora on spaceweather.com.
So there probably was some, but they would have been maybe comparable to a small event that was directly facing Earth. But because this was a huge event, but that was only a glancing blow, there probably was still some low-level aurora. But if the Earth was really in the way, then we would have gotten a spectacular show.
Okay. Is that a prediction that's made?
Well, it's something that can be calculated, and it's actually the direction it's going to go is pretty easy to conceptualize for the most part, because it's based almost entirely on this Parker spiral. And so if you have...
It's called the Parker spiral?
Parker spiral. It was predicted in the 50s by a guy named Eugene Parker, and it took something like 30 years for them to finally be able to get instruments sensitive enough to actually be able to observe it and to prove it was real. So he predicted this way, way, way before it was even possible to prove it. Cool. And he got it right.
Okay. I would look to that site and I could see that, and then I'd see the magnetometer data when that actually hit the magnetic field, right?
Yeah. So what you could do is you could maybe Google some Enlil pictures and look for models that have the CME pointed directly at Earth, and then look and see what your magnetometers said on the same day.
Okay, good. And then I could look on spaceweather.com to see if there was any aurora seen that night.
Yeah.
Okay. Very cool.
Yeah. So let me know how you get on. I'd be keen to see if this if it turns into anything useful.
Okay. Very good. Thank you very much.
Sure. Happy to help.
Okay. I'm gonna go, guys.
Okay. It was great speaking to you.
Bye.
Bye.
Okay.
I need to get going too, which means that I need to end the Zoom.
All right. Well, it was good speaking to you guys.
Yes, it was lovely.
Yeah.
Good. I'm not muted. Okay.
So, Andy, we've got our meeting tomorrow, and Claire, I don't know, can you make that at 1 p.m. tomorrow?
Just a second.
I'm going to stop the recording.